there really other contract management agencies out there? I'm just kidding. I think NCMA is obviously the biggest and most prestigious, and it's the one that I've been associated with for almost 30 years of my life. I appreciate that NCMA is focused on the nexus of acquisition and where we're bringing contracting and program management and quality assurance and business and finance folks together to discuss contract management. When I first got involved in NCMA was back in 1992 at a Air Force duty assignment in San Antonio. And my boss and CO team lead at the time was Drew Obermeyer. Some of you may know Drew. He's become my closest friend and mentor over 31 years. But it was Drew that early in my career there in San Antonio grabbed me by the wrist and said, "Hey, Tim, we're going to an Alamo chapter NCMA meeting." And I wasn't really sure how to spell NCMA and what that meant. But when I got there, I realized that many of my Air Force peers were engaged in part of the chapter. And that's where I really learned that NCMA was the premier organization for contracting professionals. And so I think at his time, his philosophy was NCMA is our professional organization and we're in contracting, so why not be part of that organization? And so that's become my philosophy now and why I've stayed with NCMA over these years. It was also Drew that told me we're going to study for and take the CPCM exam, the Certified Professional Contract Manager or Management exam. And again, I didn't really know what that was. I knew Drew was a big brain. Obviously, he went on to become an NCMA fellow. He held positions in NCMA chapters at the chapter level and at the board of directors and board of advisors. So he had a lot going for him, and I didn't know if I was up to the task, but we did a study session, and somewhere along the line there, I got smarter studying, got more excited about our profession. And then I did take the CPCM exam. Back then in 1995, it was a 6-hour essay. We had 3-hour in the morning based on pre-provided questions, and then 3 hours essay in the afternoon over example questions that we could take our pick from. So that was before the day of laptops and computers, so it was all handwritten. And somewhere along the line, I managed to pass that. So I'll be forever grateful for Drew to introducing me to both the NCMA and to the CPCM exam. I'm not sure even at this point in my career that I fully understand the positive impact that the CPM cert has had on me. It's probably immeasurable, or it goes without, really being able to tell the impact. First of all, as I said, it was a pretty rigorous exam, and so I had a really good feeling of accomplishment studying and passing that certification. So early in my career, it gave me a pretty good boost in terms of my confidence and a spark to continue to learn and grow and excel in the profession. Second, I think the benefit from the CPCM has had on my career is that it gives me what I call a level of street cred. Knowing that NCMA and the CPCM certification is now ANSI accredited, both buyers and sellers engaged in contracting, when they see a certification, whether that's the CMCA or the CCCM or CPCM, et cetera, I think it establishes a common reference and a bar or a level of expectation with dealing with other professionals in our organization or in our career field. So I believe that's of a positive benefit and gives you some credibility when talking with the person or negotiating with the person across the table from you. And then finally, although it's not a formal job requirement for any DoD or at least Air Force positions in terms of job qualifications, I do believe that by having the CPCM exam, it's set me aside or set me apart from my peers and candidates when competing for different jobs. And it just, I believe, demonstrates to a hiring official that I've had a higher level of commitment and that I've continued a lifelong learning by continuing to keep that CPCM certification current with 80 CPEs every 5 years since 1995. So studying for the certification process, it really connected me with Drew, and it's contributed to that lasting friendship. And Drew's a mentor that I've consulted frequently over my career. So again, that has been an outstanding benefit, benefit to my career. From a networking perspective, again, I think the same is true. through the network and friends I've been lucky enough to establish and come in contact with through the variety of NCMA, NES, World Congress, the different meetings and chapter meetings. I think that's been beneficial. Later in my career, I had the opportunity to listen to many of those folks and senior leaders in NCMA, and then become able to lean on them when I'm asking questions or applying for jobs. And some of those leaders have actually gone on and hired me. And right now, some of those leaders have retired and then they've joined industry. And so NCMA provides a pretty good environment, and one of non-attribution, non-specific threats in terms of acquisition contracting, in which you can interchange or exchange ideas and insights with those leaders. Many of those have gone on to tell me that, Tim, what I wish I knew now when I was on the buying side, here's what I would share with you, and I wish I'd have paid more attention to that. So that's been very beneficial to me, as well as being able to engage with those senior leaders and folks that I met through the networking opportunities at NCMA. I would say not necessarily a networking opportunity, but NCMA has also provided, I think, leadership opportunity for me early in my career. And there may be folks that are listening to this video or reading this article right now, and they may be a contracting officer, and they may be trying to pursue upper level management, or to become a team lead or a branch chief or a division chief, and they haven't really had supervisory or leadership opportunity. I would say by getting involved at the chapter level, first at some committee within your local chapter, or going to run for president or vice president at chapter level, I think that gives you a less career threatening environment to practice your leadership experience and gain some leadership scar tissue. And so NCMA provided a kind of additional benefit that I wasn't expecting in terms of being able to practice leadership, work with collaboration with folks, and get people to do some things when they don't work for you and you're volunteering. That's really where your leadership is tested. When I took the CPCM exam back in 1992, the CMBOK, or the contract management body of knowledge, wasn't around or hadn't been fully fleshed out yet. But I'd like to think that the benefits and the knowledge I've gained through 30 years of NCMA membership did shape my technical contracting and business acumen and leadership model. Right now, in my current position, I lead a 500-person organization that focuses on major services acquisition, and you can think of a system program office, but instead of executing cool weapon systems and aircraft and those kind of things, we execute major service contracts, where I don't have the ability, or unfortunately I'm not engaged daily in the nuts and bolts, down in the arena and the pit negotiating contracts. So most of my engagement's really at the multifunctional team and at the key stakeholder level. So I'd say of the 7 CMBOK leadership competencies, the one I primarily use day to day is the leadership competency. And under that umbrella, it would include collaboration and vision. And so in today's resource constrained environment, we don't have enough people. Things are coming at us quickly. We're trying to execute quickly and to bring about change at the speed of relevance. I think being a leader and a vision, and having a vision that's experienced within the contracting framework of the CMBOK is beneficial, and it's critical to getting acquisition strategy support, buy-in, and key stakeholder buy-in, and then supporting and informing the multifunctional teams, those contracting folks and program managers and finance folks and business folks that all come together to execute and form successful contracts and award successful contracts, and then post-award successful contracts. I think all those areas in terms of leadership skills and abilities and the CMBOK certifications or competencies have helped me in that regard. Going back to what I just mentioned in terms of collaboration skills and leadership vision, that was critical in a major organizational change for my unit over the last couple of years. So the context was the Air Force had two large organizations, one that focused on cyber warfare, cyber operations, and the other on intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or ISR operations. And each of those organizations had their own culture, their own climate. My organization was supporting the ISR activity, and the cyber operations activity had a hodgepodge or a collection of different contracting shops supporting it. when the Air Force made the decision to merge those two organizations, the challenge was that new commander wanted one single contracting activity or one entity to support the whole of their contracting operations. He didn't want to have a variety and a hodgepodge or pickup games of contracting activities. So they conducted a business case analysis, and my organization, as I said, was already supporting one of those two organizations. The decision was made to make our organization the lead for that new unit in terms of all things contracting. And so the action that I had and where I relied on the SMBOC was, again, in the collaboration and leadership and vision, is I needed to then start talking to and collaborating with those commanders and those folks in that new organization that weren't familiar with mine, and talk to them and reinforce our dedication to their mission, reinforce the fact that they would not be second place. We would treat them equal, and their mission was just as important as any others. I had to engage in face-to-face meetings. I had to engage stakeholders. I needed to continually message and work and demonstrate that shared vision. We worked to get buy-in with the contracting personnel that would then become part of my organization. Needed to make sure that they understood that we were worried about their care and feeding and remained focused on their responsibilities to their customers. And then we also worked, messaging and leadership and vision of what our organization mission is: delivering agile, cost-effective, mission-focused acquisitions for the warfighter, regardless of whether you were in cyber or in ISR. So I think we were fairly successful in that. The result was a successful combination and organization. We integrated 60 new contracting personnel into our organization. They went on over the last 2 years to deliver record-setting performance in terms of acquisitions and awards and obligations in the last 2 years. So I'd say we still have some hurdles there, but we're all on the same page. Our mantra, which is now their mantra, is acquisition done right, one team, one fight. So again, I think it was, the unique competency of leadership there that I relied upon. Maybe a little bit different example than some people were expecting. The other competencies are more focused on pre-award, award, post-award, but the leadership competency, I think, is critical and a valued competency for anybody in contracting, specifically as they progress in their career. Hey, why not? Go for it. If you're considering it, just do it. I don't see any downside, unless you were to consider the time and effort that you put into studying as a downside. But I would tilt that and suggest that, that's investment. That's investment in yourself. As I said before, in my experience, when I was reviewing all 52 parts of the FAR to study for the CPCM exam, and when now you go to learn or to study for your test, you're going to learn something. Whether you pass the test or whether you go on to actually sign up and take the certification test, there's going to be learning that occurs. And so NCMA is fortunate. We've got different levels of certification. The newest one, which is ANSI approved, as well is the CMCA, and that's really for those just starting out in contracting. It's based on the contract management standard. It uses that common language in CMS, the contract management standard, and it gets you, a better understanding of what this thing called contracting is all about. And then as you progress in your career and in time, you could qualify to take the certified commercial contract management certification, or the certified federal contract management certification. And those focus on if you're on the public sector doing commercial buying, or in the federal sector doing government type work. You'll learn as you study for those. And then ultimately the CPCM, which is focused on the entire body of the SMBOC and all 7 of those competencies. I think earning the cert gives you confidence, a demonstrated competence with your peers and colleagues as you work on both sides of the table. And then, as I said before, I really think that certification sets you apart from others. It's a discriminator. So in my current position right now as a hiring authority, when I look at resumes or I'm trying to clear my desk and look at all the candidates for a potential job, even though it's not required for the government position or for the Air Force position, I look and see if someone has an NCMA certification, and I give them some points for that. And so that can push them and help them get into the interview process. And then again, during the interview process, if all things are equal and I have 2 otherwise qualified candidates, then I look at which one has certification, and that could tilt the decision in their favor. And I look at that from a perspective of somebody that's gone above and beyond. They haven't just done the minimal job qualifications and filled the squares that the government requires, but it's someone in my mind that shows some enthusiasm and depth of understanding in the career field and wanting to do more than just what your job requires. And so I think that tells a lot about them as an individual. And those are the kind of people that I want on my team. Hopefully you can tell I'm extremely grateful for the connection and the membership that I've had with NCMA. As I said, I've established strong networks and lifelong friends that have just been instrumental in my career. Even now at this point in my career, I still think I can learn some things about contracting. I enjoy going to the World Congress and the Government Contract Management Symposium and the National Education Seminars and just the chapter meetings. I love the NCMA magazine. I like the online chat forum and the communities of practice. So I'm always picking up nuggets of contracting wisdom that I think you can only get through an organization like NCMA. In terms of certification, I'm definitely proud of my CPCM. I have it hanging up here on the wall so people can see that when they come in my office, and I've added it to my signature block. Again, I think that it can establish a connection with people you don't know if they see that in your signature block. And so it's done wonders for me, obviously, and I can't speak highly enough. I just hope that my video experience here today, I haven't rambled too bad, but that I've maybe had an opportunity to make a positive impact or catch the listeners' attention and encourage them to take advantage of everything NCMA has to offer, not just certifications, but to include certifications. Thank you. Thanks for the time and opportunity.